So, welcome everybody. We appreciate you taking a few minutes out of your busy day to discuss and listen and be a part of this presentation. I'm Dr. Richard Gonzalez with the College of Biomedical Equipment Technology. I'm excited to introduce a really fantastic panel for today's discussion. Starting with my good friend and colleague, Christopher Faulkner. Chris serves as the Senior Director of Digital Strategy and Cybersecurity at Sodexo. Also, John Schmidt. Mr. Schmidt serves as the Director of Innovative Program Development at the College of Biomedical Equipment Technology. And my good friend, Mr. Mike Kritzman, CEO of SkillNet. So welcome. Please send your questions as they come up, and let's have a great conversation. So Chris, I'm gonna turn it over to you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Monty and Mike and team. It's a pleasure to be here, and it's great to connect with. I see some folks on that I certainly recognize, friends and colleagues. So yeah, great to be here and talk a little bit about some of the cybersecurity resource development and training work that we've certainly started to invest in at Sodexo. And I know all of you as well within your respective organizations, healthcare, or manufacturers, wherever you are in the HTM field. We absolutely need to recognize that cybersecurity is a part of HTM, and we need to be providing the resource development pathways and the training for everybody, regardless of their role and how many years of experience they have, what their individual development plans are. Everybody has a role to play in cybersecurity. So some of that right here on the slide it speaks to that, right? This idea that everybody plays a role in cybersecurity, particularly when there are cyber incidents. So within the Sodexo program, and we're going to talk a little bit about that in just a couple of slides here, we of course have some roles that are dedicated to cybersecurity, but everybody plays a role when there's an incident. If any of you participated in the Log4j a couple of years ago, Blue Key, Deja Blue, right? These big critical urgent events really require that it's not just a small set of cybersecurity experts that are responding and leaning in to support our hospitals. It's everybody. You know, we consider that to be all hands on deck. Everybody has to understand the what and the why of the situation, and have the ability to really lean in and support, whether it's talking to manufacturers or doing some analysis, or even going out to a device and being hands on keyboard and pushing patches. So certainly, right, identifying and making sure that we have a good understanding of our inventory, understanding the basics of cybersecurity for a medical device. We like to think of it as what's under the hood for that medical device. And there's different sources of that. Some of it, most of you probably collect today in your CMMS, things like an IP address and a MAC address. But then there's all of these fields around capabilities of the device that help us tell a story about how much risk could there be for this medical device? How much do we really care about the cybersecurity? How concerned are we about the cybersecurity for this device? Prioritization of devices and risks. So again, we all have to have a general understanding of where we should be focusing our efforts. This is fairly standard for HTM, right? We think about PMs, we think about life safety and criticality of assets. All of that is very relevant in cybersecurity. And so we help use that as a bridge to get folks to understand how to apply those same principles of prioritization and criticality in the cybersecurity space. And then obviously the third one here is really about where we have to drive process. We always talk about in Sodexo, cybersecurity is people and process driven. We have all these great tools, all these wonderful monitoring tools, the IOMT monitoring tools, vulnerability scanning tools, sources of intelligence, all of those are great. But ultimately, we have to be looking at how do we leverage our people and our processes to drive risk reduction. And the training program that we've really partnered very closely with CBET and SkillNet on, we'll talk about that in just a minute here, has really been a great way for us to implement some of those practices across Sodexo. So let's go to the next slide here, Mike. Great. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this because, again, I really want to focus on training and resource development here. But just for everybody's context, at Sodexo, we do offer, as part of our healthcare technology management program, what I like to think of as end-to-end cybersecurity. So based on the NIST cybersecurity frameworks and the joint security plans, the JSP and HICCUP and all these other great standards and benchmarks out there, we've developed a program that allows us to meet our customers, our hospitals, where they are today and where they are and where they want to go within their cybersecurity journey. And there's no one right fit for any organization. Some folks want to go all out and invest today. Some hospitals want to go at a slower pace. And we support all of that. And our program is designed to be able to look at assessment, look at prioritization, and really look at driving risk reduction and improving resiliency for our customers, no matter where they are in that journey. And that's really, those are the two things that we really think about, is risk reduction and driving resiliency. Now, training is a huge part of this program. And if we go to the next slide here, Mike, it's really going to walk us through kind of how we think about and the sequencing of the cybersecurity development and training program that we've partnered with Monty and Mike and Jim and team to really deploy at scale across Sodexo. So we're over 450 HTM employees. And we have this training program that we've developed, and it is mandatory for all of our HTM staff. I said earlier that we believe cybersecurity is a part of HTM, and we truly believe that, and we embrace that. And when you combine that with the idea that HTM and cyber is people powered, we have to be investing in their cybersecurity knowledge and development. So just walking through this really briefly, and then we're going to take a look at actually some of the outcomes and a little bit more details of the program and how we've approached it and how we've been successful so far. So skills and knowledge and assessment here, this first icon is so important. And it's been really a pleasure to work with Mike and SkillNet in particular to help us think about, obviously, not just the content, right? CBET and their team of subject matter experts have really helped us develop the content of the program. But it's also important that we think about, how do we measure progress as we go? How do we look at the data and have the data to be able to measure pre-course, right? Pre-taking this course, what is our baseline knowledge and our understanding of cybersecurity? And as you can imagine, the baseline or pre-course assessments are all over the map, depending on folks' level of cybersecurity experience, their years of experience in the field, their role. And we love that. That's what we want to see, is we want to see that variability so that we can support folks and really understand how best to grow and develop their knowledge in cybersecurity. So that, of course, speaks to the pre-test or the pre-assessment, where we ask questions that are pretty much very similar to what we ask at the end of the course. So we're not trying to trick people. There's no curveballs. These are not certification exams. We truly want to see their retention of knowledge and how their ability to identify basic terms, basic principles, and hopefully apply those in practice before the course and after the course. So one of the ways that we've approached this is through cohorts. So all of the training that we have is virtual, which of course across the United States and Canada, where my team is present, we have to do a lot of things virtual. And CBET has developed an outstanding program that is available online. It has all of the polish of any sort of online university-based course. I know, because I teach a university-based course for the University of Connecticut, and I'm overwhelmingly impressed with the platform that CBET has provided for us. And we're grouping folks across our different hospital systems. So we support about 50 plus medium to large size healthcare systems. And we're taking folks from different roles across all of these different accounts, folks that maybe we wouldn't typically interact with day to day. And we're putting them together into these cohorts of about 30 or so students. And we're putting them through the 6-week course so that they have a bit of a community. right? We, of course, have a broader Sodexo learning and knowledge management community, but specific to this course, we found, and with the guidance of CBET and SkillNet, we found that folks want to engage and they want to learn from each other. There's also, from week to week, there's some familiarity. So when we attend these live webinars and these live sessions that CBET provides for each of the modules within our training program, you recognize faces. Not everybody's on camera, but you recognize names. You start to create, again, that community and a bit of rapport with the CBET team and with your own colleagues. And you can kind of learn together as you go through that journey. So as we said, 6-week instructor-led course. So a lot of the content is self-paced, and obviously folks that, life happens, BMETs are busy, engineers are busy, directors are busy. So we can't expect that everybody attends every live session. So of course it's all recorded, and there's plenty of supplemental videos. There's an incredible amount of other webinars and training material on YouTube, and the Health Information Sharing and Analysis Center, HISAC, if you're familiar with that, has an excellent resource of training material as well. So all of that comes together onto this online platform. There is, of course, the live component for folks that do want to engage and ask questions of an experienced instructor through CBET. And there are folks that are out in the field, right? These are, of course, not full-time educators. They, of course, are very good at educating, but they're practicing engineers, practicing cybersecurity professionals, practicing BMETs, et cetera, that are really driving and leading these courses from the lens of both cyber and HTM. That was very important to us as we were really working with Monty and Mike and team, is that yes, it's cybersecurity, but it has to be in the context of healthcare and in the context of HTM. And so we had a lot of fun really sort of adding and constantly learning from one cohort to the next, some of the different examples and use cases, and how we really make the material resonate with the HTM audience. So the flip side of it, of course, at the end of the 6 weeks, the course evaluation, post-course, we mentioned we want to be measuring pre and post. And then on the job enforcement, the knowledge is good from an academic perspective. There's huge value in folks recognizing certain terms and concepts, but we really want to be applying that and continuing to provide educational opportunities through those webinars that are out on HISAC, through different activities and engagements across Sodexo and with their hospitals as well. So if we go to the next slide, we'll do just a little bit of a deeper dive, a little bit more color to the program and how we've really, managed this. And again, we've iterated as we've gone. I won't suggest that on cohort number 1, we had it all figured out. But as we go through with the help of Monty and Mike and the CBET SkillNet teams, we've continued to improve how do we really deploy and get engagement from the HTM staff. And the engagement piece is so important, and one that I think we've had quite a bit of lessons learned around. So one of the things, if I hadn't mentioned this already, our goal is not for everybody coming out of this course to be a cybersecurity expert. Some of them naturally want to learn, some of them want to grow, and part of their individual development plan is to progress down the cybersecurity training journey, and that's fantastic. But the majority of folks, their role may not necessitate that they're in cybersecurity every day. So we think about cyber confidence. We're not necessarily looking for folks to be experts. We're not looking for folks to get certified if that's not part of their learning journey, but we want everybody to develop a sense of confidence in this cybersecurity space. And we call that cyber confidence. I am confident that there is nothing in cybersecurity, having been in HTM and for many years, there is nothing in cybersecurity that anybody in the HTM field could not understand. There is not a technology barrier. There's not a technical complexity challenge. Anybody that's a BMET 1 up to BMET 3, up to senior, up to principal, directors, managers, all of the above we are already in the technology space. We are already experts in the healthcare technology space. And cybersecurity, it should be really familiar to us. It's really a part of what we do. And so we're excited to see folks really have it click. We talk about cyber confidence. We don't talk about memorization or absolute excellence or mastery. We just want folks to be comfortable, dig in, learn what they can. And it's fun to see that light bulb click when they say at the end of the course, you know what? I actually feel like I could do cybersecurity. I feel like I have a much greater sense of confidence in my knowledge and ability to interact with my hospital leaders and support cybersecurity at large. So a couple of quick things here, quick comments here. The weekly progress reporting, we had talked about the data. Of course, I'm an engineer. I love having the data. And so it's important that we do have that level of visibility. And it's been really fun to work with Mike in particular on this in the SkillNet organization to really help us think about how we look at data for this course. And then how does that tie into the overall learning and knowledge management for our HTM teams? We also have advanced training. So we are talking, of course, to Monty and the CBET team about how we can continue to develop robust training for folks that want to continue their cybersecurity journey. And we also pull in all of those other great resources for training, certainly certification pathways through CompTIA in particular, for folks that want to become Security Plus trained, or if folks are more interested in going further and getting CISPP or CISSP, or maybe from a management perspective, they want to go for an ICSM where you're really getting certified in your ability to manage a program that's focused on information security or cybersecurity in the IoT space. So there's lots of different advanced training pathways. And we think about that and we try to provide those opportunities based on, where everybody's at today, as I said earlier, but also their role. So we have typically 3 resources or 3 roles that we have focused on cybersecurity for our healthcare customers that want to invest in cybersecurity. We have our BMET cyber role, which is really focused on, boots on the ground. I want to get out and patch devices. I want to collect MDS2s. I want to work with the IOMT tools and understand where we have vulnerabilities and get out there and fix those and patch those as a technology expert. We have our clinical systems engineers that are going to be a little bit more analytical, that are going to really help us translate the technical piece into strategy. And so we have some training and development pathways for them. I have to give a shout out to the CCE, Certification in Clinical Engineering, of course, which increasingly has a focus on cybersecurity as a part of HTM. I am a CCE myself, very proud of that. And then, of course, the manager, cybersecurity program manager role, which we don't put at every account. Smaller rural accounts may have a project manager, but for our larger accounts, we certainly want to make sure that we are looking at cyber as a full program. And so we might put those folks down the pathway of that information security management or some type of cybersecurity management training as well. You can see the CompTIA domains at the bottom. I won't go through all of these. They are all important, equally as important. Again, you see the breadth of information that we cover in the 6 weeks. It is all about exposure to the content and that cyber confidence. We don't expect anybody to walk away as an infrastructure expert or a security principles expert. I will put maybe a little bit more emphasis. This is just my lens, Chris's lens. Incident response is so important, particularly when our hospitals are in a time of absolute need. They depend on HTM to support their incident response activities. And that's really when we see all hands on deck. So it's not just the BMET cybersecurity roles or the clinical systems engineers. It's truly every single person, every single professional within our HTM program really has to step up and be able to engage in a value add way into a hospital's incident response plan. So that's going to be, that's my favorite of the 6 modules. I love them all, but I'm a big fan. I love the incident response module. So if we go to the next slide, I'm going to close out, and of course I'll chime in. I'm not shy, so I'll chime in and address questions and add some color where I can to some of what John's going to walk us through in the rest of the session here. But I wanted to share some actual data. I said I'm a data guy, and I have to live up to that. And again, we have the visibility to all of the data. That's really the key. With the help of Mike and the CBET team, the SkillNet team, through this course, we absolutely have visibility and granularity to be able to then do some really fun and interesting analytics on the back end and throughout the course as we go, so that we can continue to improve in real time. So on the left, we have some of the charts, of course, that Mike's team, as well as folks from my team. A big shout out here to Tyler Cheney, who leads our technical training program. Ryan Gonzalez, who's our director of cybersecurity and really owns the cybersecurity portfolio, which is a huge role. Both of them have been just instrumental in helping us look at the data and really piece it together to tell a story. So you have some examples on the left. We've got a note that says just, for confidentiality, we may have pulled some information out of this, but I'll be honest, the data you're looking at here is pretty close to very realistic, what we experienced. On the left, you can see some of the average scores as we go through the different modules. This helps us to get a sense of what topics are resonating with folks, where maybe out of the box, most of our BMETs are very capable of going through and answering questions about infrastructure and hardware, but maybe that incident response piece is a challenge, at scale here for our teams. And so that helps us and has helped us to really augment and really lean in and focus a little bit differently on some of these different modules. And then the bottom chart here, and these are just examples, we have others, but the bottom left one is, I think, one of the most interesting, where we can start to look at cyber knowledge from a personas perspective. So for my role, I'm not interested in the individuals. That data is all available to the local managers and directors, and they want to know how their individual folks are performing. But for my purposes, I'm really interested in more, let's look at the types of professionals we have. Let's look at their development and learning journey, and let's see how that correlates to their performance and their overall outcomes from this course. And so we can really take a look and slice and dice the data in that way. A couple of just really rapid numbers here in terms of what we've seen. We have, of course, deployed training. We are still in progress, but almost 400 folks within HTM here at Sodexo have gone through or are currently enrolled in the cybersecurity training course. That pre-course assessment, which establishes the baseline, we talked about that earlier, so important but challenging to get folks to engage at the very front end of the course. Anybody that's issued a survey to a large number of folks or done a large scale assessment would be happy with a 30% engagement rate, 40% engagement rate. So we're very proud and excited, again, with the help of CBET and SkillNet, to have gotten more than 3/4 of folks to engage right away. And of course, we've since, addressed and gotten engagement from the remaining folks, but really proud of not only the work that we've all done here, but also just the level of excitement and willingness of our HTM teams to step up and really embrace this opportunity. Average completion scores, again, as I said earlier, we're not looking for a pass-fail rate. We're not setting specific targets for every individual, but we want to see overall that we are retaining knowledge and performing well. And we're seeing almost an 80% score, if you will, as folks are coming out of this course, and that as we iterate, of course, that number is going up. And then I think most importantly here, in terms of are we learning, are we growing, is that greater than 30% increase in scores between pre and post course assessments. That, I think, is the number that we're most excited and proud about. A couple of quick insights here, and then I'll stop talking. I told Mike I talked for probably about 12 minutes. It's probably been 20 minutes, but very excited about this topic. So
you're doing great, Chris.
Oh, thanks, Mike. I will share just some lessons learned. I'll say, all this is still in progress. So we'll continue to work with Mike and Monty and team and John and Jim to pull out more and more insights. And, maybe there's a white paper, maybe there's something that comes out of this, but we absolutely want to be at the table, sharing all of the knowledge and learnings that we have and partnering with all of you. We know everybody out there in healthcare, no matter how big or small your organization is, you're trying to tackle this same challenge. So we'd love to hear from you and learn from you as well. So with that being said, a couple of quick things, get folks on board, think about where each BMET is. I've talked a lot about their learning journey and how folks want to develop or not develop in the cybersecurity space. And there's no right or wrong answer here. But everybody's going to want to know, why do I need to take this course? What's in it for me? It's the classic WIFM. And it is so important here. And I think over time, with the help of SkillNet and CBET, we've really kind of iterated on our messaging and really what has resonated with folks in terms of the WIFM. And so put some time and thought into how you kind of campaign and get people excited about the training and the opportunity it is for them to really grow themselves. One great way to do that, after we started to issue certificates, now they're internal certificates, that recognize and acknowledge that folks have completed the course. This, of course, is not a CompTIA certificate or anything like that, but internally, that carries a lot of weight. Folks love getting certified and being able to go on LinkedIn. And I've seen a number of folks from Sodexo go on LinkedIn and share that they had completed the CBET and Sodexo basics of cybersecurity training program and shared their certificate out there. So we've found that really helps to motivate folks today. Two more things here: annual compliance training. So our approach here is to have everybody go through this pretty in-depth 6-week mandatory training course. And then as a refresher, we are incorporating kind of a 60-minute cybersecurity overview into our annual compliance training. This work is in progress, but it's something that we believe will really help us keep this front and center, and obviously incorporate any additional information, new terms, concepts, things as cybersecurity evolves. And then to the practicality piece, the last thing I'll say here is engage with your hospitals. Every year there's, an all hazards assessment. Joint Commission is increasingly asking about how a hospital is preparing for cybersecurity, what our cybersecurity practices are. Your cybersecurity and IT teams are very likely doing tabletop exercises. There was a great event earlier this week hosted by ACCE, and the session was led by some of the leaders at Assimile. And they actually walked us through a mock tabletop exercise. And I'll tell you what, we had a blast. And I've participated in tabletop exercises with hospitals and with clients. And even though you've got the CEO, the CIO, the CISO, everybody's there, it actually ends up being a fairly productive, but also a really fun exercise to say, hey, do we know how to respond to that incident? So please, I encourage you to work with your leadership team and figure out how to apply all of the great cybersecurity knowledge and training that your folks are starting to get. So with that, I think I'm going to pass it over to Mike and to John here to round out the session.
That's great, Chris. Thank you. I'm just going to touch on this briefly. Chris talked about it already. There was a pre-assessment test, and we did a knowledge check, and the categories of the knowledge check are listed here. You can see the college course instructors and designers broke it into 6 categories or areas. And one of the things that I thought was really interesting was some of the people who thought they knew this stuff really well didn't do well on the test. And then some other people who didn't have as much confidence in their knowledge did very well on the test. So I think the takeaway from that is getting people to realize that this is going to be an important learning opportunity for them. You can't emphasize that enough. And Chris, props for talking about the what's in it for them. That's really an important part. So at any rate, this has been configured. It's sent out through email. So the people in the field get an email. They can do it on their phone or on their tablets or whatever. That was part of the pre-course, the pre-course data. And huge props for moving the needle as much as the course did. I think that's all I'm going to say. John, I'm going to pass it over to you.
Hey, thank you, Mike. I appreciate it. So within the College of Biomedical Equipment Technology, probably about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, we kind of looked at the environment that we were in. What is the environment that the BMETs are in? And we kind of looked at it and kind of determined that there was a gap. There was a gap between the wall and the bed, and who fills that gap? The conclusion we came up with is it's the biomed that fills that gap from a cyber standpoint. If I connect a device to a wall and it doesn't connect to the wall, I call network and say it doesn't connect to the wall. And they come out and say, hey, you have network at the wall. I'm done. So who fills that gap? The bed and the wall. Well, that's the biomed. And that's kind of where this BIIS, or the Biomedical Information Systems training, kind of started. So that's kind of where it was founded. And what we did is we kind of just polled people like Sodexo and said, hey, what's going on inside of the industry? What do you need? What are the requirements that you have? How do we can meet those requirements? And what we went to was that BMET Cyber. We need that BMET Cyber. That guy who wants to be a BMET, but he wants to know and understand cyber as well. That's kind of the focus of this class. So the BIIS courses, we call it, the Sodexo has their name for, we call it BIIS. It's focused and structured in a way to educate the biomed to be intelligent inside of that space, right? And as Chris said, they're not going to be an expert, but they can now have conversations where they couldn't before. Chris said some things like, hey, you know what? What's your IP? What's your MAC? If I go into a hospital and I ask a biomed, hey, what's your IP and what's your MAC on that? Are they going to know what I'm talking about? And in the same aspect, I'm going to ask them, what VLAN are you on? And do you know where that switch is? And they're not going to understand the conversation. The IT guy is going to ask those questions to the BMET, and the BMET's going to tell them, well, this is an infusion pump, and I don't know what that is. So there's a conversation barrier. But what they don't realize is that they have a very solid common ground. And when you start teaching them terminology and you start teaching them the things that are going on inside of this space, they start to understand that the biomed and the IT department, they're very similar in nature on what they're trying to do. Because IT and healthcare has a little bit of differences. Right? Healthcare here at the College of, go back. IT here at the College of Biomedical Equipment Technology means that my computer works and my phones connect and the right phones ring. And my network is working and my Canvas is operational. But healthcare, or IT and healthcare, means that patients survive. There's a little bit more risk inside of IT for healthcare than there is inside of IT for your standard IT community. And they need to have that conversation, that understanding, talk to each other. And the BIIS is kind of how we bridge that gap between the wall and the bed, so that people understand and can have those conversations with IT. They can understand them. When they say, hey, we got a data breach and I need you to unplug port 4 on switch 2 in the closet, they can go right to it and unplug it because they know the conversation, they know the subject, know what they're trying to say. And again, as Chris said, are they experts? No, but they can have conversations with them and they can reach that common ground and that common understanding of what they're both trying to achieve, which is patient care. Right? At the end of the day, that's what everyone's trying to achieve, is patient care. And as Chris said, we're trying to make that BMET Cyber with BIIS. We're trying to get that guy who understands it. But there's always that guy who says, I want to know more about that. I not only want to know more about that, I want to be the guy that in my BMET department, if they have a cyber problem, I'm the one they call. And I go look at that. And what we did for that is we created the Healthcare Information Systems Management Certificate. So this is a certification program of 10 classes where a student can go through it and he understands biomed and he understands IT. And when there's an IT problem or a cybersecurity problem in that department, he's the guy that the other guys call, right? Yeah, they got BIIS and they have a basic understanding, but if there's something that, hey, I don't really understand this, let me call my HISM certified biomed and say, hey, what is this? Explain this to me so I can talk to the IT department about it. And he does that. So he's that in-house kind of cyber guy that says, hey, I know a little bit about this and I know a little bit about that, but I don't know all of it. The all of it guy, that's the Healthcare Information Systems Management Associate's degree. A little bit more. He's that guy that is that cyber expert on site for this different Sodexo sites, the different whoever sites that says, hey, I'm going to work through it a little bit more. And those programs are designed in a way where they're progressive, just like your CompTIA certificates are progressive, right? You start with A+, then you get Security Plus, then you get Net Plus, then you get CASP, then you get CIS, right? They build. No different than in healthcare. You start with I just went blank on it. The CE, the certificates for a BMET that ends in CBET, and then your HTM certificate, and then your certificates after that, your AMI certificates as they grow. So it works kind of the same way. Mike, if you want to go to the next slide for me. Within BIIS, we started, as Mike talked about, the pretest is directly related to the course subjects. Because that's what, when we talk to industry, we said, hey, this is kind of the subjects we need to talk about. This is the things that people need to understand and learn and figure out. Threat landscape and technology, That also includes terminology. So threat, landscape, and terminology. Right? So they understand what a LAN is. So they understand what a WAN and a PAN and a MAC address and an IP address. They understand all that stuff. Then we go into the infrastructure, the applications and software. Then we touch on security, right? Patches, different types of threats. And then we do Chris's favorite part, the operations and incident response, because it's important to understand what to do, right? We've all learned that if your computer at work or at home gets compromised, first thing you do is unplug it from the network, but don't turn it off. We all know that. But do we know if an infusion pump gets compromised, what do we do with it? Do we unplug it? Do we disconnect it? What is the process for that incident response? That's the important things that BMET needs to know. Because again, they are that person between the wall and the bed. They're that person that's, again, number one goal, patient safety, and they survive. So this is built all in a way to be informational, and it's got some foundational stuff behind it. So it does use some of the CompTIA information, more of like the ITF, the Introduction to Information Technology with inside of CompTIA. It's also got some background stuff inside of the CAHIMS, the, what is it, Certified Associate in Healthcare Information Management System. That's a mouthful. It's got some basis inside of that too, so that you're getting all those components. And that's what makes this so unique, is it's not just a cyber awareness. It's not an 8-hour class online where you're just trying to click next. This is an actual education program that, again, helps you to understand the common ground, the technology, and the terminology, so that you can work together as a team in all things, incidents, purchasing, all that kind of stuff. Also in governance, risk, and compliance, which Chris talked on all of those. Now, again, that's that BMET Cyber. That's that BMET Cyber guy. Now, some people, as Chris said, they're going to be like, yeah, that's all I want to know. Don't want to know no more. There's going to be some other people that I want to be that guy. This is interesting to me. I want to be that guy. And he goes to the certification course map. And if you look at the certification course map, there are classes that are specifically built with the same name as the CompTIA testing, because that is kind of the industry standard for IT. And what it does is it validates your biomed with your IT department, because that's really what the CompTIA does, is it says, hey, I know what I'm talking about, and I can do it. I can perform it. I have those skills if I need to use them. So this is built in a way. But again, it's also built in the background of the Registered Health Information Technician, as well as the CAHIMS. So it's still got all this foundational healthcare basis to it, and it builds on that to make sure that it is having a healthcare player, and you understand that common ground. You understand that there is a difference between just getting an IT cert and getting a healthcare IT cert. There's a difference in it. And then they get good at that, and they're that guy, and they're like, hey, you know what? I want more responsibility, and I want to really focus on this thing called healthcare information system. I move on to my associates. These are color-coded. The gray ones are more of your biomed specific, because you're going to get biomed training inside of this, because it doesn't help for me to just give you IT and only biomeds, because some people are going to want to come into this as a new field. They're going to see it as, hey, you know what? I want to make a difference. I want to be on that common ground because it matters to me. I want a career where I help people, but I want to do IT. And this is that career path. This is that career path where, yeah, I'm a biomed and I'm keeping these life-saving systems operational and functional, but they are information systems. So I have to learn how to do that. And it builds, again, it adds to the construct. Now, the great part about the associate's degree is every class inside of your certificate degree is inside of your associate's degree. So you're halfway done when you finish your certificate. So when you finish your certificate and decide I want to do more, you're already halfway there. You're already halfway there. And then as we built this, right, we built it on the importance of people want to progress. You know, someday that BMET Cyber might want to be the Chris Faulkner. So it builds. So this associate's degree will build to your HTM degree. It'll add to that so that you get that added build, or that added education and that added functionality of your degree and your skills. You can work up through those levels. All right. And again, it's completely based on industry standards. It's based on, you know, the conversations we've had with the Sodexos, with the Renovos, with the other ISOs, with other organizations, with other schools in all actuality. What is the needs? What are the requirements? How do we best meet this need? And what's the importance of this need? Well, the importance of this need is last year, IT ransomware accounted for $7 million. This year it accounted for 10. It's a $3 million increase in 1 year. And it's projected to increase even more. We have to protect and secure this. We have to be not just the man in between the bed and the patient. We've got to be the Superman in between the bed and the patient. We've got to protect it. We've got to maintain that connectivity, because that connectivity of these biomed devices are critical. They're critical to the success of organizations, because all this information gets stored, it gets saved, and it gets analyzed in order to do patient care. Remember, our common ground goal is patient care. We have to reach that patient care. And that's kind of where we're at on our educational side of this and where we're headed with it. I don't want to take too much time, but I'm really passionate about it. I have a great team of instructors that, as Chris said, are not just IT people, they're also healthcare and healthcare information. And so we built this on that construct of, this is that Superman we're trying to build. Questions? Yeah, with foundational certifications to go with it. If you want to hit that certification slide.
Yeah. Thanks, John.
So again, certifications, it's kind of got some of this in the background of all of it, to include, as I said, the RHIT and the CA HIMSS, as well as other medical certification systems. The NIST is kind of founded inside of this, but this is kind of where we built and kind of looked at where those skills required, necessary skills in order to protect patient data and information.
Yeah, this table actually came from some research that was done on the top cyber certifications as evidenced by being included in a job post from the three big job post sites, LinkedIn, Indeed, and Simply Hired. And while these are not necessarily healthcare specific, certainly the number of certs and credentials for cyber is growing at the rate is appropriate given the risk profile of cyber attacks, like John said. Well, I'm going to turn it back to you, Monty, and let's open it up for questions.
Yep. Thanks, Mike. So yeah, just in closing, I want to reiterate a couple of really important points and that are tied to this entire discussion and the work that we've done together with Sodexo over the last year and a half. We didn't snap our fingers and make this happen. I'll say that for an educational institution like ours, really, to me, the hallmark of an effective program and an effective education is that, and I say this all the time, is when there's no light between the education that a student receives and the work that student's going to do in the industry. And thanks to Chris and Tyler Cheney and the work of the Sodexo team, they really provided us a unique opportunity to collaborate with them very closely. I think we spent the better part of 6 months building this course, this uniquely tailored, uniquely designed course to address what Chris and his team identified as a need. Focused very specifically on a targeted skills gap that they wanted to close. I think the slide that Chris presented up there that showed the movement, how that needle moved over the period of 6 weeks of focused training. I think that's hugely powerful for any organization that's coming up against this same dilemma. And I just think it's important. And I think so for the lesson for those of us in education, the lesson is work with the industry partners that are willing to work with you and roll up their sleeves. And this was a very iterative process. It was not a cookie cutter solution. We had an idea, we had a concept. That conversation started 1.5 years ago. And then we kept bugging Chris and Tyler and their team and said, we need more of your time. We need more of your time. And they generously gave that time every week, months on end, for about 6 months until we hit a stride and then move forward with this program. And that slide that Chris had up a minute ago, that tells the entire story right there. So what's that investment worth? John threw some statistics up there earlier regarding the cost of these cybersecurity threats. You know, what's it worth to your organization? And I think the value in this is definitely evident in the numbers. This is a partnership in education is how I look at it. And it's been a wonderful partnership with Sodexo that I think is going to continue for a very long time. And I just want to express my gratitude to Chris. Tyler's not on the call today. But also I should leave one other person, Ryan Gonzalez, fantastic collaborator in this endeavor. And I would also like to point out that Ryan started working for us as an adjunct instructor about 1.5 years ago. Did such a wonderful job in helping us develop this course that Sodexo ended up hiring him. And Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he's now your senior cybersecurity representative at Sodexo.
Yeah, I mean, he's leading the charge, and again, it just speaks to I think the caliber of folks that you have leading this class and going through the 6 weeks. Yeah, so we thank you for Ryan. He's outstanding, and really well said overall, Monty. Just very, very pleased with the journey that we've been on together. And definitely was not a snap of the fingers, but every minute of our time spent on this has been absolutely worth it. And I'm just happy that other healthcare programs can benefit from some of the work that we've done together, and looking forward to continuing to share how our journey is progressing.
Well, thank you, Chris. I'll leave with one last comment, and that is that the work that we've done together here, that truly is the genesis for the certificate and degree programs that John presented on. We didn't really envision that 2 years ago. We started our work together, created a course for the Sodexo technicians, and next thing you know, we recognized we can build an entire certificate and an entire degree program around this. There's such an important need there. So we're indebted to you for that, Chris, and we appreciate your team's work and your time. And we'll let you get back to the HIMSS conference up there in Chicago, and I hope it's fantastic.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and congratulations on how the program is evolving. It's really exciting to watch.